Hello and welcome to all of you. You're watching Tech 24. I'm Julia Seeger. Coming up in this edition, it's a world first. 2 research teams in the U.S. have helped patients with complete paralysis walk again. It was made possible thanks to groundbreaking spinal stimulation therapy. In this edition, we'll speak to the author of the study, Susan Harkema, a woman who is pushing the boundaries of what is considered possible. And in Test 24, get ready for a total immersion as we test an interactive virtual reality chair. But first, scientists are proposing to build massive underwater structures to prevent an Antarctic glacier the size of Britain from sliding into the sea. They say we're running out of time, and if it were to happen, the global sea level would instantly rise by 3 meters, burying parts of Florida and other coastal areas. Well, I'm now joined by our in-house expert, Dhananjay Kadalkar. This project is literally a 100-meter-long bridge, underwater wall, if you will, that will run under the ice shelves.
That's right, Julia. But first of all, this study appeared in the journal The Cryosphere, in which the 2 authors ran computer models and applied 2 designs to the Thwaites Glacier in Western Antarctica. Now, one of the designs consists of building mounds or isolated columns on the seafloor, and these columns can reach a height of around 300 meters, which is equivalent to the height of the Eiffel Tower. And the second solution, as you mentioned, consists of building a wall that would not only prevent the collapse of the ice sheet, which is the objective of the first design, but it will also prevent warm water from reaching the base of the ice shelf, which is the main cause of melting. Now, of course, both these designs, they are audacious, they are enormous in task, and they have to be executed in one of the harshest environments on our planet. Both the authors advocate that it's a long-term solution, but in the short term, our focus should be on cutting down carbon dioxide.
So it won't be constructed this now or anytime soon. Let's talk about NASA's recently launched a satellite to measure the thickness of ice this time.
That's right. This satellite is called IceSat, and it has a system on board that measures the altitude of the Earth. Essentially, it measures the slope, the gradient. So it does it by firing lasers, 10,000 laser pulses per second, and the time taken for these pulses to bounce back to the telescope, and depending also on the location of the satellite in space, it is able to measure the altitude, the slope of any object on the Earth. Now, it is so precise that it is able to take measurements every 28 inches along its path, and it's able to measure ice to the thickness of 4 millimeters, any changes to the thickness of 4 millimeters. So that's the level of precision this satellite will give us.
Thank you, Dhananjay. It's a major breakthrough for people with paralysis. In the U.S., 3 paraplegic patients were able to walk again after researchers implanted a device to electrically stimulate their spinal cords. The milestone was reported by 2 teams of scientists working separately. And while they all admit not knowing much about the mechanism itself, they say it does prove that the spinal cord can be retrained to function under certain conditions. Claire Rush has the story.
22-year-old Kelly Thomas is paraplegic, but she has learned to walk again. This some 3 years after her car accident left her paralyzed, and 7 months after her operation at the Kentucky Spinal Cord Injury Research Center. There, doctors implanted an electrode in her spinal column. The device sends electrical signals with the help of a small remote, allowing Kelly to move her legs.
The walking, it is like I was talking to 2 completely different legs for months.
A similar success story can be found at Minnesota's Mayo Clinic, where Jared Shinnock, paralyzed since 2013, has regained his ability to stand and walk with assistance. The 29-year-old also had an electrode implanted in his spine. It's linked to another implant in his abdomen that communicates wirelessly with an external remote. The device enables neurons to receive the signal that he wants to stand or step.
Like my sitting balance and stuff has gotten a lot better. I can shoot my bow a lot better because I'm able to have more trunk support. My standing's gotten a lot better. I can stand. Walking on the treadmill has gotten a lot better and easier.
Now I think our real challenge starts, and that's understanding and how this happened, why it happened, and who the best patients are that we can help going forward.
Doctors and researchers have yet to understand the precise mechanisms in the central nervous system that allow patients with paralysis to move again.
Well, I'm now joined by Susan Harkema, who leads the Kentucky Spinal Cord Injury Research Center at U of L. It's an honor to have you here on the show. Now, you were there when both patients, Kelly and Jeff, took their first steps after being paralyzed for years. For the caregivers, the researchers, and for the patients themselves, it must have been incredible moments of joy.
Well, you know, I think that at least for me, it was a stunning moment. Even though I've been working for it for 25 years, and you hypothesize this is what's going to happen, and your evidence is going forward. That first moment when I saw it, it was quite amazing.
And now, tell us more about how this epidural implant works specifically.
So the epidural stimulator is an off-the-shelf implant for pain, and we used it for this experimental approach. And we use a 16 contact lead that goes over the dura of the spinal cord, and with a cable that goes around, that wraps around to the front, to the stimulator and battery. So there's 16 contacts, and we select different combinations of anode and cathode, frequency, amplitude, pulse width combinations for a specific motor task, whether that's standing or stepping or moving the leg. So once we select those configurations, we use that not to drive the motor system, but to excite the spinal cord, and use that in combination with training and the person using their intent to do that task. And we practice that over and over again until the individual relearns that specific task. And in this particular paper, we were showing the ability to relearn independent walking.
So that's precisely what you learned through this experiment about the human spine.
Yes. So what we've learned is that the human spinal cord has the intrinsic capacity to control walking. And so what we know now is that it's very sophisticated, it can relearn, and it is actually the primary controller of movement. And that's very important, because what we know now is that even with a severely compromised connection from the brain, in the right situations with this technology, we can revive, if you will, the function of the spinal circuitry to get a significant recovery.
Well, thank you so much, Susan Harkema, and once again, congratulations on this wonderful medical breakthrough. We're going to move on now to Test 24. And Dan and Jay is spoiling us here on Test 24 this week with two different gadgets. Let's start with this helmet, this augmented reality helmet.
That's right. It's a helmet to which is attached a computer. Now, this computer consists of a HD camera. It has a screen on which you can see multiple things. It also has two noise cancellation microphones. So that's the biggest advantage. So it is hands-free. So if you are a professional who's working, say, in the construction industry, or you are on an oil rig, this is an ideal companion, because all you have to do is put it on, and then you can have remote assistance, so you can make video calls using this computer. You can also access documents, so only by voice command. So you just have to say open files, and you have access to drawings. You can have access to different documents with the relevant information of what you're seeing. And the other interesting part about this is that it's easily trackable. So it has GPS embedded in it. So no matter where you go, your supervisor or your colleagues will always know where you are. So it's very interesting and very useful for professionals.
And now I'm sure most of our viewers are wondering by now what this chair is all about, the one behind you. It's a virtual reality gaming chair.
That's right, Julia. It's made by the Paris-based startup Optima Reality, and the chair is called Optione. Now, the idea behind this chair is to add a new dimension to a normal VR experience, and that dimension is of movement. Now, I'll show you how it works. I'll just step into it.
So we're about to discover all the pictures that you're going to be seeing in your VR headset.
Absolutely.
We're going to see those pictures in the screen right behind me.
So right now I'm having an experience of the French astronaut Thomas Pesquet, who spent a lot of time aboard the International Space Station. Now, through this film, you literally start from ground zero. That is, you start from the launch of the Soyuz. As you can see here, the Soyuz rocket. And the moment I push this button, as you can see, the chair starts moving, and I get the sensation of motion. And right now, I am about to get launched. The chair is vibrating, and it's simulating what an astronaut, not exactly to that extent, but it gives an idea of a sensation that you would feel when you are getting lifted off in a rocket. This is one of the many films that you can have a similar experience. So, for example, you can have other experiences in movie trailers. You can also have driving or flying simulators, and so on. Right now, I am about to be docked. My Soyuz capsule is about to be docked with the International Space Station. And there it is. That's a successful docking. And now I'm floating above the Earth. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So there are spectacular images, and I can promise you'll enjoy every single moment of it. So I'm right now floating, zero gravity situation. All this has been a dream for me. I know it's impossible to achieve, but this is a great way of experiencing these things.
And this is just one experience in many that you can experience with this VR
Absolutely,
headset.
and these are authentic videos. They have been filmed from the International Space Station by Pesquet himself. And as you go further, you will get away from the Earth, you will tour through the solar system, and eventually reach a black hole, and you'll enter it, and nothing comes out of the black hole, not even light.
It's a dream come true for Dan and Jay Khatalkar. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.